I love fishing a little shallow crankbait in places where most people wouldn't. You know, I mean, you could fish these docks a lot of different ways, and you know, it's laydowns, docks, brush, grass. There's a lot of lures you could throw to fish the same stuff, but boy, a little crankbait really has a lot of triggering qualities. You know, you can run it down through there, and I can cover a lot of water quick, and with 2 treble hooks, oh God, there is a good one right there. I mean, right down the slip there. He just couldn't handle it, you know. That's what I love about him right here. Is, you know, I can fish so much faster than other things, and that little square bill, the way it deflects off the bottom and off the cover, it's going to trigger a lot of them to bite that won't hit a lot of other baits. There's no doubt you got to be really accurate. You know, most people wouldn't think of throwing a crankbait in here because they're afraid to lose their bait. But boy, it'll just trigger a lot more strikes for me. You know, I mean, you could do a lot of things to catch these fish, but this crankbait to me is the deal. There's a good one. Right off the corner. Nice one. That's the thing about these shallow crankbaits around docks is, boy, if you can position the boat to where you can get the angle, you can catch a lot of fish that you can't catch with other baits. I mean, that's a good solid fish right there. And, you know, it's about casting accuracy though. You know, you got to have the right equipment for it. I've got a little 6.5 foot rod that's got a real soft tip, and it makes it real easy. I can just make that little underhand roll cast. Those fish are going to be set up, especially on floating docks like this, suspended around them. So a little crankbait running along the side of them, it's just hard to beat. You know, they can't help it. And you know, I'm going to position the boat so I can get it right down the boat slips and the stalls and off the corners of these pilings and things like. There's one. To where they can't help it. I mean, you catch a ton of fish with it. You could use a lot of baits to fish these docks, but right now the shad in here like this, these fish are suspended around them, and they're ambushing the shad on these corners. These docks here have shade to them and pontoon boats everywhere, so not only is the dock in the water, but these pontoon boats, they give them something to get around. They like that a lot better. The tighter it is and the harder it is to make that cast, the better those docks are generally going to be. This short little rod like this, it makes it really good. Short rods are much more accurate, and with that soft tip, it makes it really nice to throw these light little baits around in there. Probably the most overlooked thing in shallow crankbait fishing is how important, even in the open water when you're throwing at a stump or a grass line or even a rocky bank, how important your casting angle and that accuracy is. Because boy, if you're a foot off, a lot of times you just can't get that fish to react to that bait. It's the way that bait comes through the water and the way it deflects off the bottom and the cover that triggers them. It's really an easy technique once you practice just a little bit. And if you have the right equipment, I mean, I designed rods just for it. I do so much shallow cranking that I've got a whole series of rods that covers everything from, you know, the deep offshore ledge fishing all the way up to this kind of stuff. I mean, this is one of my specialties. I love throwing a crankbait where most people throw a spinnerbait or they'd flip. And if you got the right rod and reel, it makes it easy. Boy, he just couldn't handle it. I've been seeing him chasing some shad over there, and it's super shallow. That's the thing about this time of the year when the water's going down like this, is you got to have something that goes real shallow. And this little bait right here is built to go less than a foot. So, you know, anytime that I'm fishing, you know, ultra shallow water like that, and there's grass or cover around, I want to throw, there's another one right there. I'm going to throw that. I can put it on heavy line and just keep the rod tip up, and you can keep that bait just a few inches beneath the surface, so it'll stay, you know, right in the strike zone. And, you know, it's something that runs a little deeper, especially in clear water. You just can't get them to react to it. One of the things that I like to do on these small crankbaits like this is to make sure that I've got a little bit bigger hook and something that's real strong. So a little bait like this little Series 1 right here, I put 2 extra strong short shank number 4 trebles on it. And this way, you know, when you're fishing with heavy line and around heavier cover like that, these hooks are going to be strong enough to reach out there and catch that fish first, and then hold them if he gets you into the thick stuff too. So, you know, this is one time when you're shallow cranking that you want to have, you know, big line and big hooks. Good sharp ones though. I love cranking docks, but boy, if you can get a big grass flat, that's where you find the mother lode of big bass, and a crankbait's hard to beat for that. I mean, it is just a foot deep out there on that flat. I got 20-pound test and a big rod. Just got to play him out. That 1 foot crankbait's hard to beat. What I'm going to do is just burn it real fast. You know, I like to put it on a faster gear ratio reel, and this bait only runs a foot. You can make it wake right on the surface. I've got a 7-foot rod, and if I hold my rod tip up, I can keep that bait just right underneath the surface like that. And you know, if I put the rod tip down, it'll go down just about maybe a foot. This little bait just has a short little bill on it. It has a wide wobble to it. You know, the fish are up here chasing shad. They've got a sexy shad color on, and you know, he thought it was a shad. It's got a lot of vibration, a lot of rattles. Same kind of stuff you throw a spinnerbait in, but you can see right now there's not much wind. There's a little bit of sun out there. A flashy spinnerbait is probably a little bit too gaudy. You got to have something subtle like this that has some rattles with it. I'm going to reel it fast and start and stop it a lot.